Thanks for joining today's event. First of all, this is CrewAI's Agentic Week. They have their main conference in New York. I'm not working for CrewAI, but I'm just falling in love with the CrewAI. I'm really proud of the fact that a professor at the California Science and Technology University teaching multi-agent systems. We have a section with the marketing group, and Andreas Ramos, he's author 22 best-sellers, Amazon books, all around the marketing thing. We have a lot of fun, there's too much fun. And then, so about a month ago, we come up, CrewAI comes to me and say they have an event, and they ask me if I want to have a host of a local event. I say, why not? And then here we go, just having an event like this. CrewAI's engineer will come in about 5 minutes. CSTU is a California Science and Technology. The principal, he's just coming by and then he's back. I was asking him if he was just too busy. Anyway, CSTU founded in 2011. Dr. Chin, he graduated as a EE engineer. Doctor EE engineer degree, and then when he come to the industry, he find out that many of the things so different from the textbook, right? So he has the idea of to helping other people to get trained on the technology side. So it's kind of going through quite a few years with the journey, and currently we have about 150 students. About half is F1 students. Another half is we call it the Emerging Technology Program, ECTP. It's more focusing on the professional experienced workers, and then come back to here to get trained on the emerging technology. Of course, right now AI is one of the hot topics. Here we are. So with that. Welcome to joining in. And then this is my QR code. I am having my own venture. I try to help the founders and the career seekers to find their passion. Because of the AI transformation disrupting a lot of different work, right? And then people worry about what next one to do. Right, so okay, so this is my QR code. I'm running my own venture to helping the startup founders and career seekers to discover their new passion. Right? And then along with Andreas Ramos, we have a study group, a separate study group. And then right now we founded yet another study group, kind of looking into agentic AI. And of course, I'm biased to CrewAI because I'm so loving it, right? And but we'll open up for some other idea as well, right? So to come to this WhatsApp group, the whole purpose, the whole idea is we learn together. We bouncing the idea is going to be, ideally, it's going to be a safe place, right? And then there's no attacking. I'm so believing in the, I'm not sure if you know about the game theory, right? Looking for the long-term benefit and long-term value for each other instead of the short-term end. And that is over and over again, we see people just try to get the short-term end, very short-sighted. We want to have a long-term growth and grow with everyone together. That's the whole idea. Yeah.
One of the things I like about the study groups is we study, we work together, think about things together, discuss things together. Because I'm learning here in Silicon Valley, people don't work by themselves. They learn from each other. In companies, we talk with other people, we make up an idea. It's good, we develop it, and now let's develop it further, so back and forth, groups working off each other, learning from each other. And we need that really badly in more discussion groups. So we joined this AI study group about 2 months ago or so.
Yeah.
It's going really well. Quite a few postings every day, and a lot of great information, and all sorts of things around AI in many different directions. Quite interesting. It helps me, because I'm working on new things, I'm writing new classes for the spring and the summer, and so on. As I'm learning things, learned to say them really clearly. As hosting for the group, that forces me to be very clear. That people like comments, discussion, and I get feedback, and I can improve what I say even better. So look at starting your own groups or joining groups and talk with people. Because really the only way to learn about stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I think we do have Lorenze. He's coming from CrewAI engineer. Lorenze, can you speak to us and mute yourself? And then you can ask him for the presenter. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey everyone, my name is Lorenze. So yeah, welcome to Agent Week. So thank you to California State Technology University for being one of our hosts for this whole week. It's all about being able to share what you can do with agents, but also what you can do with CrewAI specific agents. I can also now share my screen. Ping, is that cool? And just go
Can you
to
share your screen? I think you should be able to.
I'm going to. I think you need to stop sharing yours.
I know you're going to have a very busy week this week in New York.
Yes.
New York, right?
Yeah, we have a bunch of events. This is the second one in SF so yeah, this is Agent Week. We have a bunch of cities hosting events just dedicated to educating people of what they can do with AI agents and then CrewAI itself. So yeah, I'm Lorenz. I'm a software engineer at CrewAI, and today I'm going to show you guys how you could go from zero to production with CrewAI and our agents. So I'm sure everybody here knows what AI agents are already, but to those who don't know, AI agents take this high-level goal of like analyze market trends of my competitor, find the best talent for my job posting, or create a marketing campaign for my product and research the latest news about AI. So it takes this high-level directive, and an AI agent will reason, plan steps, and take actions for fully autonomously executing this high-level task. And at Crew, we make building agents super easy. We're also the leading open source multi-agent framework. And we have a bunch of features out of the box that your agents can use. You can use any LLM, but they have tools like caching. They have memory. You could train them with reinforcement learning with human feedback. They have guardrails to ensure that they're behaving that the way they're supposed to and not sending out like any PII. So how do we do this, right? We have a bunch of agents. We have things maybe that's doing research for you on the web or analyzing or generating summarizations and then generating a report. So like a team, how do they actually work together? So we've created this way of execution called delegation and asking questions. So they can cooperate through something called role playing. So the tool itself underneath the hood is called delegate, and then there's another one called ask questions. And what this essentially means is you can have one agent sharing tools that an analyzed task would have to execute. If an analyzed task can't do it, maybe re-research the task again. So again, they're working together as a team. We're inference agnostic. So what that means is you can use any LM inference. This can be coming from OpenAI to Anthropic to NVIDIA NIMs, Grok. It doesn't matter where you bring your LMs. We support all of them. We have different types of memory systems within our agent framework. So we have short-term memory, long-term memory, and entity memory. You combine all of those and we get contextual memory that your agents can use. So short-term memory is essentially being able to know what your agents did on the last kickoff, so it knows what arguments it passed for a particular tool. Long-term memory is essentially a way for your agents to self-improve over time. So as they kick off or as they execute tasks, an LLM or an AI agent is actually going to give itself a suggestion or a recommendation on how it can improve. So when you execute a task, you define it with a expected output, and we kind of gauge the expected output with the output given to generate these summarizations or these recommendations. We have entity memory that remembers things like name, job, company, things like that. So like an entity. Again, combine all those together, you get contextual memory. So knowledge is a way for you to preload data for particular agents. So a research agent can have a company doc of guidelines on how it should and focus on researches. So again, if you want like static company data or just data in general that you want to preload for individual agents to have or the crew itself, you could use something called knowledge. Out of the box, we have a library called CrewAI tools, which are pretty much pre-built tools that let you to communicate with like the web or a database or an internal app that you might have. So that's tools. Uh, and we're an orchestrator. So what that means is there's different ways for you to kick off an AI agent workflow. Crew is an autonomous process. So think of it like an autonomous car. You have a starting point, you have an endpoint, and an AI agent will navigate all on its own until the end output. We have a before and after hooks to guarantee certain things. So if you want to pull data before you run your crew, you can use the before hook. And then if you want to guarantee certain things after, like being able to upload this to a database or upload a blog, you could use an after hook. Kind of the mixture of both is something called flow, where you can combine regular Python code to create conditionals like if-else statements with single shot LLM code or a crew. So you define a route of what your agents will do, kind of giving you more deterministic outcomes. There's different ways of being able to iterate and improve your AI agents. So there's a feature called tests, which uses LM as a judge that evaluates, again, the task description, expected output, and the agent that's executing this. The end output is judged against the expected output that you define. And using LM as a judge, we're going to score that from a score of 1 to 10, from a scale of 1 to 10. You could also train it. So reinforcement learning with human feedback is essentially being able to give it suggestions. So after every task step of an execution chain, you could give it feedback like, hey, maybe use these types of websites, or I want a bullet point list instead of a numbered list. We're going to have a judge LLM score that and give it self suggestion. So at the end of the day, not only are you giving it like a suggestion, but the AI agent itself is actually going to make its own suggestions as well to self-improve. And what we notice is typically after we train and we were retest, the scores went up. And sometimes even the executions are faster. So we're going to like just dive into kind of like the low code, no code ways of being able to build with Crew. But if you do know Python, you could easily install it with pip install CrewAI and CrewAI tools. But what we actually recommend for everybody getting started with CrewAI is to actually use our UI Studio. So our UI Studio is essentially a way for you to chat, and the end output is a crew of AI agents and tasks that you would need. So like the whole schema. So this is one of our use cases where we're going to do a contract analysis use case. So what I have here is build out a contract analysis use case that will compare multiple PDFs that I have that's stored in a vector database. I want to cite the results and have like a summarization report at the end of that. From there, we're going to give you the whole schema from your agents that have their particular role, goal, and backstories, and we're going to give it some tools. And this is kind of what you get. You can enrich it, you could add more tools, you could customize it from here. We still do recommend, depending on how complex your use cases are, to maybe have an engineer or a person who's technical to code. And it's still very simple, even if you don't do engineering full time, but you could still enrich that from here. You could deploy it, and again, I would still recommend to maybe download the code. But again, you have a like 85 to 90% starting point. The only time maybe you would actually really need to code is if you want to have a custom tool or custom integration that might not work out of the box with the tools that we already have. So again, let's go from zero to production. We have a 80%, 85% of the way there approach. How do we now kind of get that to the finish line so we can deploy? So with just a little bit of code, what we're going to do is just high level of what we're essentially doing, which is the pre-processing of data. This is something you could do before you kick off a crew. These are the same files, but what you get when you download the code from the UI Studio is essentially an agent's YAML file, which has the entire definition of your agents. So again, this is a YAML file, not really Python, but a way for you to begin defining your AI agents and your tasks. So on the lower code side of things. So our first agent is Data Retrieval Analyst Specialist that will retrieve data from a vector database. We have a source citer specialist that will cite each particular section from where it got the answer from. And then we're going to package that as a report generation specialist. And when you define an agent needs to execute a particular task. So again, we have another YAML file, so very low code. Our first task is retrieve the contracts, which will extract the relevant contracts from our vector database. And then what we're going to do is have a source citer task. So again, you can kind of see like a pattern here. Whatever your agent's going to do, the task is kind of very similar in concept. So we have kind of like specialized agents doing certain things or certain tasks. And at the end, we're going to do a generate report task. To add a tool, we could do something like this, where from CrewAI tools, we could import any vector database extracting tool that we want. So for here, we're going to use Weaviate, and you could easily scaffold out in maybe just 5 lines of code and adding your collection name, your clusters, and things like that. When you define your agents, again, they're already defined on the YAML side of things. This is something you get out of the box. It's just being able to point to that and being able to change the LLM if you do want to change it. So you notice here we're using GPT-4o for the first two because they're having to do a couple more things than summarizing or generating a report. So they have to retrieve, they have to generate metadata filters. So maybe we want a more powerful model for the first two. But then the second one, it's all about maybe more for speed and performance, and the task isn't so complex. So GPT-4o Mini is good enough. And again, we have the agents, we have the tasks. You don't really have to put anything. It's just being able to point to where that lived on your task.yaml file. And then your crew is a combination of the agents that you've defined, a task, and a process. So a process is a sequential process going from the first task, second task, and the third task in sequential order. And when you pass in your inputs, you could pass something like this. What are the differences and how contracts define warranties within these two companies? Then just kick the crew off from there, passing those inputs. And this is something that you get. You get company 1, company 2, the sources, the citations, where it's coming from. But this lives on a IDE. This lives on a code editor. How do you get to pass this to people who are non-technical? How can they execute this from an environment that's not code-based? So that's where you could deploy it. So if you're an engineer or if you're in low tech, you could upload this to GitHub. And from our platform, what we're going to give you is a bunch of tools for you to execute this. One, you do get API endpoints, so you could kick off your crew in any environment, but you're able to execute your entire flow using no code, right? Here's your inputs. You could pass in the same thing. So what are the differences in how contracts define warranties between these two companies? And from there, you could begin to execute your entire workflow. There's another way of executing this from, think of like a Kanban board, right? I'm an engineer. I use Linear or a Kanban board every single day to track the work I've done. And we have the same kind of like logic flow for your AI agents, right? So you can trigger a crew, you can see what's waiting in execution, you can see what's running, and you can see what's completed. And you have like higher level metrics across the board when it comes to how many tokens did it cost, how many requests were made, how many of them were completion tokens, and so forth. And then again, you get the full output. So over here, you can see the citations, and you could copy it and send it to stakeholders who would be most relevant for this. And again, higher level observability, so you can see everything that's being executed, how long did it take. You can understand every single step of your agents, so their data retrieval, source citation, maybe you're finding conflicts of interest, and then generate reports. So again, you can see exactly what your AI agents are doing, what model were you using, and understand kind of the behavior of the LLM, not the agent, but deeper down into exactly what your LLM calls are making. And then again, we have the test feature that you can do on the UI. So we give you hallucination results based off the faithfulness of the context provided against the end result. So if a result was making up facts or gave sources that actually didn't exist from a tool call, so when we were retrieving those details, those will kind of give you a suggestion that, oh, maybe that was a hallucination. But if it's say true to the context of all of your tasks and the tools that you use to call, that will give you a verdict of faithful. And again, we do LM as a judge over here, so you can understand the performance of every single task that's being executed by the models that are running them. You could train them, again, the reinforcement learning with human feedback. So after every single task that gets executed, you could edit the suggestions, and this will be taken into account for future iterations. Over time, you could measure the performance of your crew. So are they continuing to hallucinate? Are they scoring higher or lower over time? And again, understanding of how much it costs and how long are your executions or AI automations taking. You can have an understanding of the tools, right? So being able to understand how many of them are failing, why were they failing, what was the most common error, being able to use certain how long they took, as well as that's the thing you can see from these metrics tabs. Again, we have a bunch of templates that you could use to get up and running. The one we just showed is this contract analysis use case, but depending on the use cases that you guys want to build, from like customer support to sales to kind of lead scoring and marketing, we have a bunch of out-of-the-box templates that you can use, and all you would need to provide are just a couple keys and deploy from there, or again, download, adjust a little bit of the code, and then begin to deploy and see the UI from our platform. Ping wanted me to talk about MCP, and I'm one of the engineers who developed that. But just from a high-level perspective, to those who might not know what MCP is, it's a very hot topic in the world of AI right now. But it's a way for you to give context to an LM, right? Context is coming from tools. So a server, think of a server as a tool. It could be an API service that's wrapped that your AI agents or your LLM can use. And a client is a way for you to execute this. So a client could be the Claude desktop app or an IDE, something that can connect to an LLM. And what we've done at CrewAI is we actually wrapped our enterprise service. So I'm going to go back a couple slides. So over here, when you do deploy a crew, you get this. You get a URL and you get a bearer token. And you could use that to essentially execute your server or your CrewAI agents anywhere. So I could give it the same progress, and I'm gonna do a new chat, and let's do on a clipboard this. I'm going to paste that in. So true. So without context, without any tools, by nature, your LLM would not know how to answer this. So what we've done is we've created an MCP server that lets you kick off the crew and get the status of it. So this is going to take maybe a minute or two, but we could trigger it and let's see how it does. So we're going to allow this chat. It's going to pass in kind of the same inputs that I showed you over there, but oh, let's see. This is good for so what the issue was, I don't have my credentials correct, but what I could do is do something like this. I'm going to go to settings, go to developer, and this is actually a good segue because I was going to show how do you set this up. So on here, the issue is my token is wrong. So what we could do is go here, make sure we copy this right, make sure we copy this as well, and Claude, restart that, and let's give it again. Clipboard, boom. So how do you configure this? I'm gonna split screen this. It's essentially setting up this service. So I'm going to allow this chat. You're going to go to settings, go to developer, edit config, and there's a copy paste from our repo. If you go down to CrewAI and then enterprise MCP server, all you would have to do is just copy paste this and add your enterprise URL and your bearer token. So with that, let's see how it's doing. So it's triggered a crew, and what we should see now is we have a new execution. 35 seconds ago, it just completed, and maybe we could do something like this, where we click this and go to Claude, show me the status of, allow that, or, oh, this is the ID, sorry, boom. Show me the status of this. Nice. So affiliate agreements under representation of warranties, and this is coming from Digital Cinema Corp. And this is kind of like what we got over here, right? Digital Cinema Corp. Show me the full result. So again, MCP lets you connect and get context from our AI agents, and then this is now exactly what we got over here, right? So again, without MCP, we wouldn't be able to properly query this, and MCP gives us a standard way of being able to trigger any crew. So again, how do you set this up? A client could be something like Claude Desktop. You go to the config as well as just clone this repository. And all you would have to do is add MCP, add your MCP config once you've gone to here, go to settings, and on developer, just edit config and add this config file. So on your MCP servers, you can just add the crew. So yeah, that's it from me. Maybe there's some time for a couple questions, but yeah, that's CrewAI and MCP servers.
Thank you, Lorenz. That is amazing. It's amazing MCP features, and then many of the features you show. It seems like it's a lot of new things coming up with compared with a few months ago, and I think new things keep coming. Very amazing.
Yeah, that's the double-edged sword of AI agents, right? There's something new every day, every week. It's hard to keep up, but it's something that we need to keep on keeping on, right? It's a marathon. It's like we're sprinting the marathon is a good saying.
Cool. Yeah. So we'll open the floor. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about the trim feature. So how does the trim work in CrewAI?
The trim.
Yeah, they said they talk about they can use data set to trim.
Oh, trim. Okay.
Trim the,
Okay.
how does it work?
So the question from the audience right here is how do you train the model? How do you train the crew?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To train the crew again, it uses reinforcement learning with human feedback. So what that essentially means is during every task that gets executed, you have the ability to give a suggestion. And these suggestions could be like, hey, I want you to use these types of metadata filtering when I am trying to extract data from my vector database, right? So these are things you could actually give suggestions as you see new test results. You could do that from the terminal or as you're executing crews on an IDE, or you could do that through our platform where I showed there's a tab called train. One, it gives the suggestions that you've given, as well as taking the previous task output and the expected output that you've defined. It's going to actually create its own suggestion as to how it could self-improve. So the whole concept of train is one, giving reinforcement learning, but also a way for your AI agents to self-learn over time.
A lot of things.
Yeah.
One is does this training process involve people in it or just I can say yeah, but it's pretty good, 20,000 good interaction with question and answer. Do I still need people involved or not for the training process?
So the question is for the training process, if we have 20 data points,
20,000.
20,000, sorry, 20,000. Yeah, of course, yeah. The big training set. Is there any human involved still needed?
There are ways for you to do auto train. So there is an auto train feature on the enterprise platform. But there are if you're doing a manual like through the IDE, you would have to go through every single one. But it's not through the data. It's not during a data set. It's the n number is based off n number of tasks that you have. So you're giving feedback to every task. So let's say you have a crew that's executing 5 tasks. It would be 5 per iteration. Yeah.
Okay.
But there is a way to have your AI agents just auto train. So let's say you do have 100 tasks. You don't need to have a person sitting through every single iteration. You could have an AI agent do a first sweep and then from there select a couple blocks that you want to add your own specialized um, suggestions for. And you would do that through our platform.
Yeah, I'm still trying to understand how does the training work inside the CrewAI? I mean, we're not talking about process. It's a fine-tuning process.
It's not fine-tuning.
Then where do you put the record?
It's storing this as a pickle file on your agents that we retrieve before every kickoff. So think of it as like a small read-write record for being able to add or append extra context for your LM. It's not like a fine-tuning a model. It's more a way of giving specific context to your AI agent or your LM during a kickoff versus LM or inference fine-tuning.
Thank you. Thanks.
I think those are very good questions. If we want to have more information, probably I'll reach out to you and then we can post into my group.
Yeah.
So we in the audience, we have another question from yeah.
So at the moment, what's your major type of customer segment? Is it to B or to developer or to one?
So the question, yeah, you hear the question, okay, right?
Yeah, can you repeat the question though, please?
Your primary customer segment right now you're targeting, is it to B or to D or to C?
Yeah,
so the question, yeah.
Who targets B2B, B2C?
Or business to developer?
Yeah,
it's B2B. What we've noticed is we do have an open source framework, right? So there is this kind of like bottom up, top down approach where we've noticed our customers, one, from companies like in IBM to companies in PwC, they start with open source. They're engineers. They champion this framework, and then it goes up to a decision maker. But our target audience is B2B. We have people in legal to insurances to consultants to like Big Four, one being PwC. We have a lot of partnerships with companies like NVIDIA to IBM, Capgemini, Databricks, to name a few. So yeah, it's a lot of partnerships as well as customers who are in consulting and content analysis use cases we have within oil and gas companies to legal firms. So it's a very generalist or generalized niche industry. I'm going to share my screen one more time. And what we've noticed is this. And this is something you could check out on our website. It's called insights.crewai.com. I'll post it in the chat. What we've noticed is a lot of varying use cases. There's not just one use case that's being dominated. It can start with research and reports, something super easy, and then it could start to get into back office automation, to software automation, to sales, customer support, and yeah, like you could check out this site of some of our customers, people who are hiring for a CrewAI experience. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any closing remarks, Lorenz, for that regard? We have another 2 minutes.
Yeah, just want to wrap up by saying again, thank you guys at the school, at the university for hosting one of our first actual AI Agent Week events. I hope you guys learned something from building AI agents. Oh, I think time's
I
up.
don't mean
It
sorry,
says.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, again, really thankful for one, this opportunity, but also really excited to see what you guys can build with AI agents. Again, I think building AI agents with CrewAI is super easy. We had an interesting conversation about MCP. I would, recommend at the very least explore what that is, what you can do with it, and then go from there. But yeah, it, it's going to be an interesting, second Q2 to Q4 for this year of how AI agents are going to, or be, how AI agents and the AI agents you see in production are, how they're going to shape out. So super excited for that. But yeah, that's it for me. I hope everybody here has a good night, or wherever they're tuning in from, have a good day. But yeah, thanks again, Ping.
Thank you, Lorenz, for joining our event right here. So I'm going to advertise again, and then I'm champion for CrewAI. I'm starting a study group. If you scan the QR code to join our study group for CrewAI. Of course, I'm going to bias to CrewAI, and it's not limited to CrewAI. I'm open for all other agentic framework for developing applications. Cool. Thank you, Lorenz. And then next, we're going to take maybe 1 minute break.